Hello, everyone. Chip Boaz here. And today on the Jazz Lowdown, we're going to answer the question that's on everyone's minds. Who is the best jazz musician? Hey, wait a minute. Who's going to answer that? Who even has the right to answer that? Honestly, no one. You're right. It's totally subjective, and it's not even really a fair question to ask. But awards certainly try to shine some light on individual musicians. Oh, yeah, right. Like the Grammys. Well, kind of. What do you mean? The Grammys gives awards to all the best musicians. I've always felt like the Grammys really lean into popular music, and they don't give jazz and other art musics a fair shake. I kind of question who's voting on the jazz categories, and more often than not, I question the results and the awards that are given. I mean, not all the time, but often enough to where it smells kind of funny. Why are you being a hater? The Grammys aren't good enough for you? What is then? The JJA just announced their 2024 winners. The JJA is the Jazz Journalists Association, and it's a professional organization of media creators who cover jazz. And they're giving awards to individual musicians because they want to support the art form and the folks that make it happen. The JJA Awards are put on, supported by, and organized by a group of individuals who spend their whole year immersed in jazz. Personally, I feel like this group of people has a better chance of really nailing down who showed excellence in the past year in jazz and what's going on in the modern scene. Let's start with the player of instruments rare in jazz, and that went to Bela Fleck for his work on the banjo. And Bela's awesome. I love everything he's done ever since the Flecktones up to now, and an amazing musician that deserves the award. But I wonder, why do we keep calling the banjo an instrument rare in jazz? I mean, I know you'll find way more tenor saxophone players than banjo players, but wasn't the banjo around when Dixieland happened, and hasn't it been there ever since? I don't know. Just a thought. Trap Strummer of the Year, Brian Blade, 100%. Brian is quickly becoming one of my favorite drummers. I took me a while to warm up to him just because he's a very different approach, but you know what? He comes to me straight out of Tony and is doing things that are really interactive and interesting and really colors the music in a unique way. So I am right behind this one. Keyboards Player of the Year, Herbie Hancock. Now, hey, I can't argue with Herbie anytime. Herbie has done more for acoustic piano and synthesizers than maybe any other musician in jazz. And he did a big tour last year that took his keyboard finesse all over the world. But I wonder, it seems like the easy choice to me, honestly. Maybe there are other musicians doing cool stuff on synthesizer these days that may need the recognition a little more than Herbie. Just a thought. Pianist of the Year, Kenny Barron. Yes, yes, and yes again. Boy, you know what? Kenny is really a treasure to jazz, in my opinion. I love anytime I get to hear him play, whether it's on a recording or live. Such a huge amount of finesse, such a huge amount of taste, and this wealth of knowledge. Let's recognize Kenny every chance we get. Guitarist of the Year, Mary Halverson. Now, I'm going to be honest, I often feel like I'm just not smart enough to understand Mary's music. She's a brilliant guitarist, does things that are cutting edge and breaking boundaries all the time. Obviously, understands jazz on a deep level, but I just don't get it. I don't know. I'm going to work on my smarts so I can catch up with this one. Tenor saxophonist of the year, Joshua Redman. Yes, I love Joshua Redman's playing, have for a long time. I think in this past year, he's been doing some really great stuff, whether it was his latest album, Where We Are, or his work with his quartet from earlier on, that reunion with Christian McBride, Brad Meldow, and Brian Blade. Really beautiful stuff. Great to see Joshua Redman recognized. Trombonist of the year, Trombone Shorty. Now, everyone loves Trombone Shorty, and what a great player, what a great band leader, and someone who has really done some great work, but I question this. I feel like there could be a better choice. Michael Dees, maybe. I don't know. Someone who's a little more down the road of jazz. I think Trombone Shorty goes in that kind of funky New Orleans grooves type style that is certainly connected to jazz. We could argue about that all day, but I just wonder if there might have been a better choice for this one. Trumpeter of the year, Ambroge Akamushir. And yes, 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 100 times over. Yes, Ambroge was everywhere over the past year, playing on so many great albums, including his own, and live so many places, doing really interesting things with the music. I'm 100% behind Ambroge. Duo of the year, Fred Hirsch on piano and Esperanza Spalding on vocals. I'm going to be honest, this album was really boring. A couple of great musicians right there. No qualms with either of them, but I don't know. I never saw them live, so maybe that was a totally different thing, but the album was just really boring. So next we have male vocalist of the year and female vocalist of the year. And come on, JJA, catch up with the times. Why do we have to gender awards? I find this somewhat offensive and definitely outdated. I understand maybe you're trying to make more room for more people to be recognized, but I really think this is unnecessary. But I'm going to hit the awards. Kurt Elling for male jazz vocalist. And I love Kurt Elling's vocals, and what an amazing performer, both live and on recording. To me, his project with Charlie Hunter, Super Blue, it was cool, but it was blues pop tinged. I don't know. I don't know if there's a better choice for this one for the past year. Cecile McLaurin Salvant got the award for female jazz vocalist. And yeah, I saw Cecile last year and it was an amazing experience. What an interesting musician doing really incredible things. I am 100% behind that one. Up and coming musician of the year. I am so glad to see that this is a category in the JJA Awards because a lot of the names that I've been talking about so far are well established musicians. And of course, musicians that have been doing this for a while deserve to be recognized because they generally have more experience and they generally have more to bring to the table. Hey, but young musicians are our future, so let's make sure that some of them get recognized. The musician that got this was pianist Isaiah J. Thompson. And I have to admit, this was one that I was not familiar with. So I went and I looked up some of Isaiah's playing on recording, and wow, what a great musician. Definitely has kind of a gospely tinge to what he's doing, but very interesting stuff and well deserving of this award. Record of the Year, Where We Are by Joshua Redman. Now, I'm going to preface this by saying I love Joshua Redman. I think this is a mature, interesting direction for him to go. There's a lot of very cool arrangements on the recording, and the musicianship is over the top. At the album itself, I don't know, I just never really connected with it. It's really interesting to, take a jazz lens at a lot of different locations, mostly across the United States, and super cool concept. And again, great musicians, but the album just kind of fell flat for me. When I saw this, listened to it again just to make sure I wasn't hallucinating. And you know what? It feels like it never really takes off the ground. It just kind of sputters along. And honestly, I think there could have been a better choice for this one. Bassist of the year, Linda May Han Oh. I was so thrilled to see this choice from the JJA. Linda May Han Oh is one of the most compelling bassists on the modern jazz scene. Whether she is playing alongside Pat Metheny, part of the Jay Ayers trio, or leading her own groups, she is pushing the instrument in so many fascinating directions. She's a beast of a player, really knows the instrument inside out, and always finds interesting ways to approach it. I am so thrilled to see Linda Mahon O being recognized, and I am 5,000% behind this choice. All right, another big one, electric bassist of the year. And this award went to Esperanza Spalding, which seemed to me like an odd choice. Now, let me explain. Esperanza is an amazing player. Whether she is on the double bass or the electric bass, she really tears it up on the instrument, plays right in the style, does some very cool things. But I went back and looked to make sure I wasn't forgetting. I didn't see any sort of recording from Esperanza. When I saw her live recently, it was pretty much all double bass. I don't know. It seems to me like there's a lot of musicians out there playing electric bass in jazz and maybe doing things that are just as interesting and maybe have been a little more active over the past year. So I question whether this was just an easy choice or something that people really thought was deserving. Musician of the year was Christian McBride. Now, let's talk about Christian for a minute. Okay, one of the most amazing bass players in the world, really one of my heroes, always makes the instrument sing, whether he is throwing down a walking line, whether he's being funky, whether he's taking a solo. Christian does amazing things with the instrument. He's a great composer. You listen to his albums, he is always putting together something new, something interesting, something so deeply rooted in the style, but always from an interesting perspective. And let's not stop there because Christian is an amazing musician, but he's also an amazing advocate for the music. Whether he is hosting Jazz Week in America, both on the radio or on YouTube, whether he is out doing interviews, serving on musical director on interesting projects, or even being the artistic director of the Newport Jazz Festival. Christian is going above and beyond to make jazz happen in the world. I could not think of a better musician to pick for Musician of the Year. Lifetime Achievement Award in Jazz, Jack DeJohnette. Heck yeah. Jack has been one of the most interesting drummers in jazz for so long, whether he's playing alongside Keith Jarrett, leading his own projects, or doing one of the multiple things that he's done over the course of his career. Jack DeJohnette is always spontaneous. He's always interesting. He makes choices that push the direction in new and exciting directions. He is a musician's musician. And yeah, we should recognize him. Lifetime Achievement Award, Jack DeJohnette. That's a great choice. So there we have it, the best jazz musicians of the year, as chosen by the Jazz Journalists Association. Some of them I agree with, and some of them I don't. But can we talk honestly about awards for a minute? It's honestly just kind of silly and maybe even somewhat damaging to the overall scene. Music is highly subjective. No one is ever 100% going to agree on any of these categories. And honestly, I don't think any of these categories really matter. Why do we need a best musician? We are all doing the good work and trying to make ourselves the best musicians that we can be every day. And that, in and of itself, deserves the ultimate award right there. What do you think? What did you think of the JJA Awards? Do you agree with the winners? Would you have made other choices? Or do you think the awards are just not necessary at all? We should find some other way to lift up the music. I'd love to know your thoughts. Leave your opinion down in the comments. Let's have a conversation about this. I think it's a topic worth discussing. And if you've enjoyed what you've heard here today, you like hanging out with me, please subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications so we can continue connecting. I would love to keep this conversation going with you. I will be back soon, folks. I will see you soon.